Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unshakable with Human Design. I'm your host, Nicole Leno, and I am here with my friend and once a month co host, Miss Christina Luna. Hello, Christina. How are you?
I am wonderful, Nicole. Thank you.
I know it's so consistent with you. Every time I talk to you, it's like, I'm amazing. And you actually really mean it. It's not one of those bullshit amazings. It's like everything in your life is just the bliss experiment is alive and well and going strong with you.
Absolutely. I do, I was curious when it first started if it was sort of a momentary fluke, if it was sort of a dopamine fueled new relationship hormonal kind of situation, but
hmm
no, apparently you can actually let your frequency rise and rise and rise, and you can actually make that your new normal. And it's like turning the thermostat up on your happiness and let your nervous system stabilize to that.
It's the real thing. It
Yeah.
is the real
No,
thing. It's been very fun to be a part of it with you and to get to be the fly on the wall for this time.
do you know, a while back I was in a group, an experimental like group therapy experience. And the thing that shocked me, that just really like got it through my system, was that we're not doing therapy and healing so that we can tolerate more pain or to heal our pain. We're doing this healing and we're doing this growth so that we can tolerate more pleasure in our lives. And that's a common misconception when it comes to why we would put ourselves into self growth and personal development. And now I understand what that actually means, being able to
Mm.
tolerate happiness for longer, because it actually is very vulnerable to experience sustained happiness and pleasure, because there's that sensation of fear of when it will drop. And I've definitely
Mm.
had
Mm.
some emotional ups and downs. Like the wider and broader you open up your ability to feel, the more you let yourself experience the depths, and the more bandwidth and space you have then for the joy. It's like deeper and deeper inhalation and exhalations. uh and I wouldn't live any other way now. I'm feeling very grateful for the capacity to feel.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. And let's just take a little pause here before we dive in, because this is the May transit episode for 2025, which I can't believe we're already in May. It's crazy. But I want to take a pause here because what you brought up is really important. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't really get. That, the whole feel it to heal it kind of messaging out there that I liken it, and this is like the work I do with tapping and clearing out your emotions. This is why I always tell people, I'm like, this is like the sleeper hit part of the work. We think it's the human design, we think it's the strategy, we think it's these things, but it's actually getting to a level where you allow yourself to go to the depths, which will allow you to reach greater heights. And you can sustain. The image I always get is like a trampoline. And if you have a trampoline that's pulled super tight and the springs are super tight, then it doesn't go very low, but you also don't go very high. But when you can get a real bounce on that thing and you can really go deep, then you are flung higher into the air. You pull a slingshot back further, it goes further. And that's the same principle, that if you're protecting yourself from the pain, you're also protecting yourself from the ultimate joy. And you are shortening that spectrum that you get to live on. I only will allow myself this much discomfort or pain. I will only look at this much discomfort or pain, and I'm going to pack the rest away. Well, then you are protecting yourself and keeping yourself probably from the things that you're chasing. And so I love that you brought that up, because I think that that's something that people take for granted, or they hear it and they don't really believe it. Like they're like, yeah, sure. But they don't believe it enough to really do that work, to really show up for it the way they show up for the rest of it.
And surprisingly, I noticed myself a little bit more, even in the trampoline metaphor you just used, when you're super high up there, that's when everything starts to wiggle and shake. Like that's when
Mm-hmm.
your soul starts to be like, whoa, this is really high. And you can unconsciously or consciously put a little governor on that joy to bring it back to a comfortable temperature or a comfortable
Mm-hmm.
range. And I believe that for me, the last 7 months have been about maintaining a higher comfort level with those great heights and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I'm safe enough to fall and it's a very soft landing, and then I get to go right back up into that higher space. And so I believe that April was a month where we really got to explore the space. All of the planets were moving direct as of April 12th. We had the entire last 3 weeks of April where everything was sort of moving in a tangible and real
Mm-hmm.
direction. And many of at many moments, there were many, many lanes that were converging into one really clear soul alignment. And the primary message that I was receiving was let the lanes merge, let it
Mm.
clarify, let it point you all in the same direction. The proof is all there. And the more that I allowed it to just keep narrowing the lanes into one, the greater the momentum and the grace actually became.
Mm-hmm. And I felt that. I sent you a message to book this call. I was like, we didn't book May yet. Can we do that? By the way, it was so weird. I had felt that like, and I don't fight it anymore. I don't, but we're still human. There's still like oh, I wanted to get that done or I wanted to do that thing and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm still a productive person. I get what I need to done, but sometimes it felt like there was stuff on hold. Like I was sitting on a hold with an important call on the other line and they just weren't picking up yet. And I sent you that message and I was just like, today I woke up feeling like, oh, it's on. Let's go. And then I looked at the date. I'm like, yep, sure enough, this was the day that Mercury went direct. And I was on the cusp, my own personal chart from, your quarterly reading. I was on the cusp of like some big changes too, and some big kind of cosmic alignments for myself. And yeah, those last 3 weeks, it was just sort of, it felt like assisted energy. It felt like that, like, here, we're going to make this very easy for you. But I also noticed there was some really strong themes that were going away, that were like, and and this is what we're talking about. I think when we talk about like eclipses and we talk about retrogrades and stuff, they are asking you what doesn't belong anymore and let it go. And I do feel like even though you're not consciously necessarily doing that work, at the end of it, it's like, oh, that doesn't belong anymore. And it just goes away. And that was what it felt like for me. Like I was like, oh, these are just bags I don't need to carry anymore. And some of them are people, some of them are offers, some of them, it just shifting things felt so easy because I wasn't attached to some other things. And it wasn't this massive conscious change that I was making. It was literally like an energetic letting go.
I absolutely felt that as well. And it felt letting go of some short-term things, but also really long-term things that
Mm.
maybe I've carried for about 20 years. I felt them get set down. And there was a lot of adjustment in my nervous system. In fact, there were days of, I mean, yesterday was a day I was just grieving all day yesterday. Not anything specific, not grieving like an acute experience, but just really honoring and releasing a version of me that I am not anymore. I am just not. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that I was this resilient, strong,
Mm.
independent. Yeah, and I think this is the South Node in Virgo. The South Node in Virgo had me so strong, so whole, so independent, so self-referencing. Like I've got all of this. I'm my whole temple. That is kind of the part of me that is now really deeply softening into being held in different ways that maybe I craved early on in my life, but couldn't really relax into. And then now I have some really strong, tangible, foundational changes that are happening that feel already the frequency of safe, strong, pleasurable, beautiful foundation. And the softening that's going on in my nervous system is I'm it's like nothing I've ever experienced in my life.
I feel that exactly too. And I know that you and I have some similarities in our chart and stuff like that. Like the south node right now is what my actual north node is. So I feel like I have had so much letting go of the Virgo perfectionism, I would say, is like the big thing. I have been able to, and you and I have talked about this, like being able to step into a new level of play with things and having fun and not taking them so seriously. And I don't think you know how seriously you were taking things until you stop taking them so seriously. And it's like, oh my God, I was so hung up and like uptight about stuff. I was so scared of not getting it right that I didn't get it at all sometimes. And so much of what I created was from force and effort. And then some things were just like it was just a time of a lot of doing and a lot of action taking. And now it feels like it's there is a surrender in my nervous system that feels so supportive and so fun.
Mhm.
I don't know if I felt free to have fun like I feel free to have fun now. So that's what feels exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's being assisted because Mars is finally in Leo now. And when Mars is in Leo, it does bring out the playful, silly, light, creative version of us and version of our ego. It's Mars, people can say a lot of things about Mars, but Mars for me represents the way our ego expresses. And when our ego is expressing in Leo, it helps us to really own our unique recipe and feel proud of it, which is why modalities that help us to understand ourselves better are so powerful because they are just innumerous permission slips to be our full self.
Exactly. Yeah. Permission to be the exceptional you. And you are
Mhm.
exceptional just by being this particular, perfect, unique version of a human being. Like, this is how you were made. Um, so, should we dive into May and what we have coming up? We're recording this right
Yes.
at the, like tail end of April. It's April
Yes.
23rd. So, we've still got some stuff going on here. But what do you see for, I'm going to call out just one thing in general that May is a moment where we shift over into this is one of those quarter markers for us, where we go into a different quarter of the human design wheel. The quarters kind of represent themes. We go from that first quarter of thinking about things and dreaming them up and having these ideas come into our experience. And now we're moving into the action taking portion and the concretizing of those ideas. Like, okay, what do we really want to build is sort of the next theme that we're going into. And that officially crosses over when we hit the second gate on the 4th of May. We officially cross over into that territory and we will be there until I guess it's when do we go into the third in August. But that's from a human design perspective, that's kind of where we're at. So it's always like the theme is going to change where we're starting to get like the engines really going now in this is like when you do the reps, right? It's like this is when we're
Yeah.
like, okay, we know what we're going to do. We've got the plan. We planned already. And now it's time to like, now we just got to execute. That's sort of the energy that we are moving into from that human design perspective. So what have you got from just,
It's
I wanted to say that before we started, but what are you
oh,
seeing?
it is I'm it's so amazing when these things line up so specifically and acutely. So yes, in fact, on May 4th, the first that's when Pluto begins its first retrograde while in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So we're having our little retrograde, but what that means is it's been slowly increasing the dial on our energy and frequency since November. It's just been turning it up, turning it up, turning it up, turning it up. And so we've been putting more and more frequency increases on our plate. So people have had illnesses, they've felt like ascension flus. They've had to navigate changes. There's realignments that have happened to help us to be in a more sustainable increase in our frequency. But when Pluto begins to retrograde on the 4th, that's when we actually begin to stabilize and integrate all of the adjustments that we've made. And so it is putting in those reps. It is the incremental progress. And Pluto plays a super long game. It wants our sustainability and our frequency to be turned up into, almost an idealized way. Like, not almost, it is in fact looking at a really idealized reality that we all share with each other. And it's not expecting us to do it all at once. It's giving us a little increase and then giving us a chance to stabilize it. Giving us a little increase, then giving us a chance to stabilize it. So we will have the rest of March after that moment to begin putting those processes down, growing things incrementally. It's a perfect time. Like you said, reps, it's a perfect time to be caring for our health because Taurus rules the body and our fundamental needs. It's the simplest things: sleep, water, nourishing food, calm atmosphere, a regulated nervous system.
The
Those are
stuff
the
we take
things
for
that we
granted when we get super busy. Yeah.
that's
And
right.
just to clarify, for the rest of May, right? You said March, but I'm
Oh,
certain
yeah.
you meant May. And that's fine. I keep doing it too. I keep saying March because it still feels like it can't possibly be May already, but
How
here
is
we
it
are.
May? You're right.
So
It's
just
the
so nobody
end.
was confused, I wanted to call that out.
Yeah, it is the 4th of May, excuse me.
May the 4th
And
be with you.
May the 4th, exactly. And so there are a couple of dates that I've circled on May
Hmm.
that I feel will be particularly strong for receiving feedback on our incremental progress. They're like strong checkpoints. And
Okay.
so if you have your calendar out, I would suggest you circle these dates. The 17th of May is going
Hmm.
to be a day where you're going to experience a surprising breakthrough in resources. When it comes to your body, when it comes to money, this could be a revolutionary new idea that brings you the type of sustainable resources that you've been desiring, needing, asking for, that your projects demand, etc. And it's immediately followed by another huge day on the 18th, basically the weekend of the 17th and 18th. It's kind of a star weekend where the clarity of the direction you want to take, the messaging, like it's like we get this kind of inspired movement on the 17th, and we immediately begin implementing it and utilizing the resources and the information to move things forward. And with that, it then brings us to the 24th, and the 24th is when Saturn moves into Aries. And this is a big deal because, as we spoke in the previous episodes, when Neptune moved into Aries, it began to materialize a dream that we've had since before 2012, probably. So, all the month of April was the beginning of that materialization. And now, when Saturn moves there, the absolute tangible proof has landed. So
Mm.
we get this news, we begin moving from that place, and this could be a time of incredibly meaningful and tangible manifestations.
I love that. I'm also looking, are you seeing around that, what is it, that first week of May? Are you seeing is something that you're calling out kind of a conjunct Venus and Neptune? Are you seeing that?
Um,
Because
Yes, that's happening on the 2nd. Venus and Neptune, that's her third conjunction with
yeah,
Neptune.
yeah.
It's her, she's finally like wrapping a bow on something that she's been dreaming into form since the early part of March, literally March. Like we had her at the beginning of March in this location, then she retrograded and crossed over it again, and now she's moving forward and it's in Aries. So this is
Mm.
like, congratulations, you're here. And can I give you like a tiny bit of personal context?
Yeah.
I will literally be moving into a brand new home on the 2nd of May. I have the movers. moving my things into a new home that I will share with my lover and his our families are merging. And this is like a surprise. It's not a surprise. It's something my heart's been incubating. And honestly, it's a dream that I set off. I left my marriage in 2012 seeking a type of family experience that felt more aligned for me. And it took me going through the entire forest of mystery to finally land here. And now it's literally materializing exactly in the frequency that I had hoped in 2012. And so, from a personal perspective, I'm experiencing this as a family home, and I'm literally moving in on the second, which is when Venus and Neptune come into a conjunction in this tangible place of Aries.
That's beautiful, but I'm also thinking about the 2012 timeline. Isn't there some sort of like loop closing between 2012 and now? Isn't that kind of something that has been a theme? Again, I'm not the astrologer, but I feel like because I've looked at that time for myself as well, I've gone back to 2012 and been like, where was I then and what have I gone through since then? And I can't remember what particular
It was
thing there was.
Neptune.
I don't know if it was like an eclipse thing. It was Neptune.
Well, there were many things, but the primary thing was that Neptune moved into Pisces. Neptune moved from
Hmm.
Aquarius into Pisces, and it began to formulate a soul calling, a
Hmm.
soul alignment. And
So you
so we
left your
did a lot of
marriage.
soul alignment. Yeah.
You left your. I left my corporate job. That was the year I left, and I remember making that decision in January of 2012, being like, I can't do this anymore. And then I had the exit plan, and I left in July. And that was the
Hmm.
end of my Wall Street career. And I never looked back. Like I never ever considered changing again back to that. I have changed in innumerable ways since, but never looking back and being like, maybe I have to go back to that.
So, you know what's interesting? Before we started recording this podcast episode, we were talking about some developments that are happening for you
Yeah.
and that you felt a certain way now that you haven't felt since you were in corporate. And
Yeah.
yet you're not bound by your corporate containers and you still have the feeling that the good feelings that that corporate container gave you. And
Yes.
that so I'm bringing this up because you and I, it's not just a Virgo thing. This is a
Yeah.
universal thing. There was probably something that collapsed and crumbled starting in 2008, continuing more fully through all the way until you did some kind of faith-filled leap in 2012. That
Yep.
leap probably threw you into the deep end of the unknown, and you had to learn how to be a master at some kind of craft during that time. Whatever it was that you became a master of, it was to bring you into greater alignment with what that soul was calling you into. The courage it took to leave that safety and jump into the unknown, now it's paying off. Now it's materializing. And so this is where we actually begin to see the very first materialization. And no longer will we have to have faith in this dream. We'll actually be able to live it.
Yeah. I feel all of that because I've reflected on since you mentioned the 2012 timeline, I was like, oh, that's exactly when I left. That's like when my to me it's like that's when my old life ended. And I've kept the things that felt really good about it. And some of them I had to let go of with it. And what we were talking about, I will share this. This is since I left my corporate job, I think even though I make money, my business has been doing really well for quite some time now, but definitely over the last 2 years, it has grown exponentially. And I've kept more of that money rather than just putting it all back in the business. And my husband and I, we went and we had to buy a car. Our car, like, conked out on us. We didn't want to spend the money. And I was like, if we're spending that money, we're putting it into a new car and not into the one that we have. And I was the one who put down for that loan. And I was the one who's paying for that car. And I was that person. And I realized sitting in that chair being like, oh, am I worthy of the credit? That I was still sort of like, if I didn't have that job, if I didn't, even with all the work I've done, I was fine sitting there, but I was very conscious of the fact that I got nervous when he walked away with my application. But it did feel good writing down like what I make. And it was like, that's a pretty freaking good income for just me. And putting that down and then putting my credit down and just being like, okay, I hope I get it, which of course I should get it. But I still had that in my body that was like, you're maybe not worthy of that level of trust from like that an institution won't recognize you was kind of what I was feeling. And then he came back immediately and he was like, "Oh, approved." Instant approval. And I was like, "Oh, I got instant approval." It wasn't even like I had to fight for it or anything. And that was a huge deal for me. It represented so much more than a car. It represented, I think, a level of independence that I haven't honestly felt like energetically. I feel like, and that's not anything that anybody does in my home. It's not about my husband or anything, but from my perspective, I think I internally was like, "Oh, well, I'm second fiddle here. I'm not equal. I'm not, even though I pay for all sorts of stuff around here, it is equal." But I don't think that I had really owned that until that moment because I was faced with that fear of being like, "Oh, wait, I think I have some worthiness shit going on right now." How interesting. Um,
You know,
yeah.
I'm so happy you brought up that little fear because that is something we're navigating right now too. While the sun is in Taurus, which is where it is now, Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio, the opposite sign.
Mm.
And so the part of our path of liberation and internal security is dealing with the forces that are out of our control, like institutions that approve us for large moves. I had to be approved, I had to apply, I had to have a credit check and background check, and there are certain decisions that are out of our control, and though that's what Scorpio rules. Scorpio rules power dynamics where we literally are in a relationship with something that's not in our control. And
Mm.
that's why it can be so transformative. And that's why it can really show us what we're made of. Because when we allow ourselves to go into that fear and trust our side of the equation, trust our own strength and security, energetically, it does open the gate. And it wasn't because we willed it open or pressured it open. It was because we had enough faith in the uncontrollable forces to deliver what it is we believe is aligned for us.
I have so much Scorpio in my chart. Like it's my rising sign, it's my moon, you just explaining that right there. I don't think I've ever had that context on it where it's so much of my work has been on having faith in the things that I cannot see and I can't control. And my relationship to those forces has to be so clean on my side or I lose. Like that's been so much of my work. So I love that thank you for that context and just kind of sharing that with us and also reminding me that we're in Taurus and Scorpio is the opposite of that. So I wanted to call out a couple of things that I am seeing just from a human design perspective. There are some dates that are kind of fun and interesting. So we have, the first through the third, or I guess like, yeah, the first through the fourth. We have, everybody's going to have the channel of initiation, which is the 25th gate and the 51st gate. This is where ego meets identity. This is where everybody thinks of initiation as this, it's the I go first energy. This is the big courage. That happens then. And it also happens, I think it happens again, yeah, around the 21st, 2nd, 3rd. Yeah. So the 21st through the 26th, we have it again. And so there might be these bursts of feeling like you might either see shocking stuff happen and you have the ability to withstand that shock, maybe more so than you normally do, or you feel like action will actually lift you up into some sort of like radical action, initiating energy, going first, being bold, doing something that is bolder than maybe you would normally be comfortable with, how that actually changes who you are a little bit. Maybe helps your, I like to think of the channel of initiation. It's part of what we call the mystical circuit in human design. We think of it as this like initiating bold ego energy, but it's how the ego is that ego energy being channeled into something that feels so right for us to do for the first time that maybe nobody's ever seen, how that actually lifts us into a greater place of spiritual awakening, that it changes who we are on like a fundamental cosmic level where it's like, I am different now. So I see those points in the month as opportunities for us to take an action that maybe scares us, but that we feel ready to do, that we just feel it. That's sort of a permission slip right there to say, I'm going to do this. And when I do this, even if it's not the tangible results that we are looking for, it's the change that it will spark in me that will make it all worth it. I may not be able to see it, but the change is there. So those are just two things I wanted
Absolutely.
to notate there.
That first week, what I'm seeing, it's similar. The description I have for that first little bubble of time is called a reconciliation of our human needs. And so it's about our worthiness to have our needs met. And so there's a bit of a claiming of I have these needs. These are important to me. I'm conscious of these needs and they're fundamental. And so there is that fire of truth and that grounded depth of knowing that we're allowed to receive those needs to be met.
Mm. Yeah, and that same week we also have, the sun is going to be in gate 2, which is just, this is a gate of receiving. This is a gate of getting out of the way, trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, really just relaxing into the knowing and trusting that it's a time of like manifesting. We manifest with receptivity. And that's really what that second gate is about. And that's, from the 3rd to the 8th, we see that the sun in that gate from a human design perspective. Do you have any other gates that you wanted to call out?
Yeah, I could just go through the weeks. The second
Sure.
week, which is what you just described,
Yeah.
that's a week where it's really important for us to take stock of our progress. The pattern that I found in the second week of May is that oftentimes we feel like we should have made a lot more progress than we already did, but we should look at how much progress we've actually made. It's like, holy moly, I'm expecting these orange trees to have full fruits on them, but it's still springtime. Let's just be happy about the flowers. Like I at least I planted these orange trees and they have flowers on them. Like there will be oranges, but let's just celebrate how far we've actually come. And so it's a pretty good day for celebrating the micro wins, even though they're not micro, they're actually macro. And then there's something around the middle of the month that has us really coming into our sacred craft. It's like, oh, now that I'm not using my bandwidth to think that I should be making progress faster than I am, I can actually sink my teeth and my hands into the material that turns me on the most. And so a lot of people might find it an ignition for their sacred craft and a security to actually start working in that sacred craft in a way that maybe we've never committed ourselves to before.
Yeah, so once we cross over from the 8th on, for the rest of the month, we are in throat center land. And we will be in June as well, but we're talking about May here. So the sun is going to be in all throat center gates for the month of May after the 8th. So after we switch out of the second gate, we move over into the 23rd gate. And then we go to the 8th gate, and we're kind of traveling through these different ways of expressing ourselves, these different magical ways of taking action. So the throat center is the center of manifestation. And by manifestation, we mean bringing into form. So how are we going to take something that's an idea and actually concretize it, bring it into the world? That's why the second quarter is so much, it's all of the throat center gates are in this quarter. They exist here. So that is why this is such a unique month, because I think that your way of expressing yourself, what you choose to take action on, what you choose to manifest is such a personal expression in this month. It's such a personal reflection of who you are. So we have the 23rd gate, which is about really expressing your insights. Everybody's going to have a defined ajna for that like from the 9th through the 14th. Everybody's going to have a defined ajna and a defined throat. So everybody out there who has an open throat right now, you might feel like you are just able to express those insights in a more open and free-flowing way than you normally are. Or you might find that it feels like a lot, and that maybe you have weird things that you want to share. This is a time of weirdness, and to embrace your freak flag and allow it to fly. Let it be seen. And even going into the next week where we go into the 8th gate, it's called the gate of contribution, but I like the Gene Keys expression of this one. The gift is style. And it's really about like, and it took me a while to figure out what the hell that meant. I'm like, style? What's style? And the style is that I'm a unique and quirky and fun and interesting individual for who I am. You're damn right I'm going to put that out there. I'm not going to conform to what everybody thinks I should be or to the way that I should do it. It's a time for individuality and standing out. And I believe it is conjunct with Uranus at the same time.
The 17th.
Yep.
So, which is funky expression. It is like
weird. Let your weird out.
Yeah.
It's a rewilding time. It is a time for you to kind of step out and say, like, you know what? I'm going to let people hear this thing that's been on my heart. I'm going to let myself step out and be this thing that maybe scares me a little bit, but it feels so true.
I love that you're bringing this up because it flows perfectly into I would love everyone to get their calendars out and circle from the 18th to the 24th, just kind of circle that week and say, let's say you say the weird thing and you start to get visibility and communication about the weird thing. This is when the old governor systems in the brain that used to keep you safe, they're going to show up, they're going to flare up, they're going to wake you up in the middle of the night like, oh my gosh, like what if
you done?
Blah, 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 blah. Like it's like it's a moment when we kind of freak out because we've gone beyond anywhere we've gone before, and we're a little terrified about what will happen now that we've gone there. And these are just fears. They are not real. They are just the old swords in our heads that kept us safe and kept us small and quiet. And so those are going to flare up that week. And if you have fears and thoughts and like nightmares about what's happened now that you've grown beyond your comfort zone, just remember that's exactly appropriate. And that always happens when you've just grown or when you're about to grow.
Yeah, I love that, because that definitely does happen. We step out and then we feel really great about it. And then we go, oh shit, did I go too far? Did I say too much? Did I show too much of who I am and who I feel I truly am? And that goes back to that first week, in gate 2, that sets us up to say, like, I am these things and I'm proud of it. And I get to receive just for being me. Like, actually, the only thing that gets in the way of me receiving is not being me. And I think that this is what those throat center gates, I think they challenge us to put our money where our mouth is, to actually really go and say, I'm actually going to let the world see this level of me, maybe it's not even new, It's just a new to them, new to what we're allowing people in for. And then we go into like the 21st through the 26th. Everybody's a manifesting generator that week. So we have the 2034 channel. You might find that you are super busy and super active and like almost to the point of crazy at this time, particularly if you're a projector or something like that. This might feel, we never know how it's going to feel. It might feel great or it might feel insane and like you don't know how to handle it all. It's really about the individual, how this shows up. Sometimes when my root is defined, which, you know, I think, oh, I'm going to get all this energy, and it feels crazy to me. It's not so much anymore, but there are certain activations at certain times where I'm like, this feels like a lot. So it might feel like a lot. If it does, just chill out. It'll be over in a couple of days. It's just cosmic weather that's making things feel a little amplified. And you might feel, you know, the everything now is sort of the theme of that channel. Everything now, everything now. Had to have it yesterday. So even like what you were saying about like that progress and you know, really being able to own what you're claiming. That this is that time where you might be questioning it. You might be questioning whether your progress is really real. Have you really come as far? You might be questioning whether you're far enough because it feels like everything should have happened yesterday with that channel. And then they try to force the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Don't fall into that trap. I think that's great advice what you brought up about being able to look back and say, no, but look at what all that I have done. Don't look at what you haven't, because that channel can definitely make you do that.
Absolutely. The way that May ends, it's a Gemini week. So there's a lot of, and so this is mutable air. So let's just think about mutable air. Mutable air means this is a moment where the beliefs that you had before are ripe to be wrong so that they can be a little more accurate for who you are now. So it's a time where we're meant to mentally grow. And every time before you mentally grow, you're a little bit questioning if you're wrong about what you previously believed. So there's a little bit of mental self-doubt that kicks in because you're like, wait, I thought I knew. I thought I understood. I thought this opinion about the way things worked was accurate. And now I'm learning something which is stimulating a little bit of frustration and confusion. But if you can know that that's part of the growth cycle, you can welcome frustration and confusion. And you can allow yourself to be like a little brain scrambled. And we literally on the 30th of May have a Sun Mercury Cazimi. And I've been telling all my clients that this is a brainwash moment. This is like not a brainwash where someone's brainwashing us, but a brainwash like we put our brain in the dishwasher and we cleaned it all off and we're allowing it to be fresh and new because the world is new and our relationships are new and our relationship with ourself is new. We didn't even know what we were capable of before this moment. And now there's something completely different that we get to arrange our opinions and beliefs around. And so it's a 10 of Swords moment where it's sort of, if you remember the 10 of Swords, it's got this person like, wow, all the swords, but it's the end of mental sabotaging. That's what it is. This is my week of this is the end of mental sabotage. Stop it. Let it go. Surrender.
And can you tell everybody what a Cazimi is?
A Cazimi is when Mercury and the sun are in exact alignment. And so you cannot see Mercury. It's being burned by the sun. And Mercury rules our communication and our mind and our thoughts and opinions. Mercury and Gemini, this whole like temple that we're in right now, it rules the beliefs that we started having when we started interacting with our siblings as children. It's like the beliefs we inherited from family dynamics when we were little. And that's how we thought that the world was until we got older and matured and learned differently. And so Mercury and Gemini, this is a temple that's ripe for us to have like completely liberating new beliefs about the world that wow, it's not exactly what I thought it was when I was a kid. And we're doing this continuously, no matter how old we are. We are continuously shifting those opinions. And the other thing about opinions is they're very specific to the ego identity that we are. So
Mm.
if any of you have gone through a massive identity change, you're probably ripe for a whole new opinion and belief set as well. It's kind of like telling your kid, like, why don't you try this food again? Because your taste buds are always changing. And
Yeah.
if we could remember that the last week, like, my taste buds are always changing and I'm a different person now. Maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, so that's the 30th. That's when this
Yeah.
brain dishwasher, we
Yeah.
put our
It's
brain in the dishwasher on
the
the 30th of May.
the entire time leading up to it. Listen, this could be a really stressful, mentally draining period of time if you're
Mm.
really rigidly holding on to what you previously believed. You can be so stubborn. The universe will let you be as stubborn as you want. But it's so fun to just have beginner's mind and be super curious and listen to this episode and proactively circle like brainwash week.
Yeah.
Hold my opinions gently because I might have something new come in.
And in those times where I get uncomfortable, just if it helps anybody, if it helps you listening, then the really one of the things that I do, if I get uncomfortable, I just lean on the tools. That's when I do, it's like, you know what, I'm going to do an extra long breath work. I'm going to do a really long meditation where I'm just going to allow and consciously choose not to force, consciously choose to surrender. And I ask myself, do I need to surrender my body more or is it my mind? Does it feel like something that needs to move? Then I might do breath work. But if I feel like something needs to settle, I just need quiet. I need to sort through, I need to let my brain and energy just sort of like reorganize. Then I might do a good long meditation and just allow that to happen. Give my brain and my body what it needs, the space to do what it needs to do. And if I have to do that every day during one of these stretches, I do it because that's how you get to not fight this stuff in my experience. That's how I can ride whatever weather is happening.
You know, you brought up good tools, and the tools that are going to be really impactful at the end of the month are going to be any tools that allow you to express things verbally.
Mm.
So tap into your mentorships, your therapists. To be honest with you, Chat GTP, GPT, Chat, the AI is a really reliable and consistent and completely resourced way to just express everything that's going on in your mental, and it will track everything and get to know you and attune to you, and it's so unbiased, and it's there could potentially be just some really helpful applications in the latter part, because while breath work and all the somatic stuff will definitely keep your body anchored, it's the brain that's going to be super
Mm.
overactive. And if you have a place to put that, instead of immediately running into an argument with someone or vocalizing your like unprocessed emotions with someone, bring it to the chat and
Mm.
let it process it with you in a way that won't damage any of your relationships.
Yeah, I journal when my brain gets super active. If I feel like it gets, I think journaling or, channeling it into a chat or just channeling it someplace where you can look at your thoughts, I think can be really helpful. I always find it so interesting to see what I've been thinking. My relationship to the thoughts changes so much, seeing them out on a page or seeing them on a screen where I'm like, oh, I could see it so much more clearly what was going on versus in your head and in your in your internal experience. It feels so much more real. It feels so much more out of your control. And then when you look at it, it's like, oh, that was just ideas. That was just thoughts. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to call out for the people? I think we covered quite a bit.
We did cover quite a bit. I feel I can say that May, of course, this is always true. May is a really important setup for June. There's
Mhm.
going to be a lot of really strong growth in June. And so the more that we can attune to the rhythm of May, of course, the more grace we get to experience in June. And
Mhm.
that's always true, but that's why I think things like this are so valuable, because it really gives us the most graceful continuation of everything that's coming. Early on, I was like, if I could tell everyone anything, it would be that we are continuously supported if we just allow ourselves to receive that in the incremental, momentary present that it's being presented. Instead of
Mhm.
kind of thinking like, well, when is something people come, when is this going to be over? When is this pressure going to be over?
Yeah.
When is it going to change? And I'm like, it's never going to be, this is never ending. As long as you're alive and you're breathing, there's going to be more and more and more. So just go with it.
Well, learn to it's not coping, but you're learning to not fight it so much. It's
It's
really about,
dancing.
yeah, it's dancing. It's totally dancing. And when you feel like you're doing all the wrong steps and people are stepping all over your feet, it's not a fun experience. But even when you just try and you try to get the rhythm, it's like, oh, okay, but they might change the tempo. In fact, they will. They're going to change the song. They're going to change everything. So get used to it. I like that message. And then I just like
Mhm.
to say, I think that the overall theme here, at least from the human design perspective, is really look at what you want to communicate. Who do you want to be? I think that May sort of asks us that, and it does every year because these come around in the sun gates and that Taurus season and going into Gemini. But who do you want to be seen as? What's important for you to say? Because I think that throughout the weeks, we are kind of being asked that in different ways. What is the important thing for me to express? What is the important thing for me to do in order to be the fullest expression of who I am? So I think we'll leave it there. How
Beautiful.
how can they stay in touch with you? Where should they go? Should they go to Instagram? What do you have going on?
Yep, Instagram's going to be the best place continuously. I mean, I post during every transit, I post 10 images that are applicable for the energy of that transit and a little bit of words to attune to the
Mm.
energy. So that's also just a kind of a way to check in with the moment and the present experience and expression. So I strongly welcome you into that space with me if that's something that will serve you.
Yeah, and she's at lunation.live on Instagram. You can find her over there. And then if you are interested, we have a new program that we dropped. It's called Content by Design. This is actually a chunk of what we teach inside Business by Design. We took a little piece out. There are workbooks for integration and implementation. It is a real, like, I'm super proud of this. I think that it's a really great program for merging your human design with your business in a very tangible way, which is very May energy. Let's make it tangible. Let's make the expression of who we are more tangible and putting it out in the world. And it's also going to help you find your way of actually finding flow and ease with content rather than fighting it, which I know for so many people, it's such a slog. Even with AI, it feels like, oh, well, it doesn't sound like me. This is how you can start to bridge those gaps. It's called Content by Design. It is only $33. Like, I'm insane for offering it so cheap. All you have to do to get it is DM me the word content on Instagram. I'm at Nicole Leno Official, and we'll send you the link and get you all hooked up there. Or you could go to nicoleleno.com/content and you can get it right there on the website. Thank you, Christina. I'm so happy that you're here with me again. I can't wait to see you next month. We can't wait to see you in the next episode and in next month's transit episode as well. Have a beautiful rest of your day and have a beautiful month of May. I will be seeing you on the future episodes in between. But remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design, everybody. We'll see you next time.